she shouted. "Get off private property!" As two HOA guards blocked my driveway like I was some kind of intruder. I froze for a second, trying to understand what was going on. My guest, Melissa, had just stepped out of her car holding a small gift bag. She looked confused. Before I could even speak, one of the guards grabbed her arm and barked, "You're trespassing. This area is for residents only." I stepped forward quickly. "She's my guest," I said, keeping my voice calm but firm. But they didn't care. One of them shoved me back, saying they had orders from Mrs. Green, the HOA president. Karen Green. The same woman who acted like she owned the entire neighborhood. She'd already tried to fine me twice for having too many visitors. Melissa tried to stay polite. "I'm here for dinner." "Please let go," she said gently. But that only made the guard angrier. He pulled out his phone and said, "We'll call the HOA board." "You're not authorized." I felt my blood boiling, but something about Melissa's calm expression stopped me. She looked too composed, almost like she was analyzing them. Then down the street came Karen herself, storming toward us, waving her clipboard like a weapon. "I told you people, no outsiders after 6, she yelled, her voice echoing through the quiet neighborhood. Neighbors peeked from porches as she pointed straight at Melissa. "If you don't leave right now, we'll have you arrested." That's when Melissa's tone changed. She stood tall, looked Karen dead in the eye, and said softly, "You might want to be careful with that threat." Karen scoffed. "Oh, please. Who do you think you are?" Melissa reached into her purse and slowly pulled out a gold badge. It caught the sunlight as she said, "District Attorney, and you just assaulted a government official." The entire street went silent. Karen's face drained of color. The guards froze, their hands falling away from Melissa instantly. My heart pounded as the crowd gasped. Melissa didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her calm, icy tone said everything. "Now," she said to the guards, "step aside before I add obstruction to your charges." They moved without a word, and at that moment I realized this wasn't just dinner anymore. Karen had finally picked the wrong person to mess with. Karen's clipboard slipped from her hand, hitting the pavement with a soft thud. The guards looked terrified. Melissa stood her ground, that quiet authority radiating from her like heat off the road. Karen stammered, "This is a misunderstanding. I was only following community policy." Melissa tilted her head. "Community policy doesn't allow you to assault visitors," she replied, calm, steady, and sharp enough to slice through the growing whispers of the neighbors recording on their phones. One of the guards tried to defend himself. "We didn't know who she was. We were told she wasn't allowed." Melissa raised an eyebrow. "Told by who?" Every eye turned to Karen. She forced a shaky smile. "I was just trying to protect the neighborhood. We've had strangers around lately." Melissa took one slow step closer. "Then maybe next time, Mrs. Green, try calling the police instead of pretending to be them." Her badge flashed again and Karen flinched. I couldn't help but smirk. For months, Karen had bullied everyone, sending fake warnings, false fines, even threatening to tow my car for being too flashy. But now, the self-appointed queen of the HOA was falling apart. Melissa looked at me. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, but I think you just broke the HOA." Karen tried to recover her confidence. "You have no right to interfere in HOA matters." "This is private property," she snapped. Melissa stayed calm. "Then maybe check your property lines, because this driveway is his land, not HOA territory." Karen blinked. "That's not possible." Melissa smiled slightly. "Oh, it's very possible. I checked the county registry this morning." Karen froze. Even I was shocked. Melissa leaned closer and whispered, "You'd be surprised what you find when you dig into HOA records." At that exact moment, flashing red and blue lights appeared at the end of the street. Karen gasped. "Who called the cops?" Melissa looked at her and said calmly, "You did, remember? You said you were going to have us arrested." Then she turned toward the approaching officers. Perfect timing. The police car stopped in front of my driveway, lights reflecting off every house. Neighbors leaned on fences, pretending to water plants while watching the drama unfold. Karen ran forward, waving her hands. "Officers, over here. That woman assaulted my guards and trespassed on HOA property." The officers stepped out calmly. "All right, ma'am," one said, "let's slow down." "What exactly happened?" Karen pointed straight at Melissa. "That's her. She's dangerous." Melissa didn't even flinch. She reached into her jacket and handed over her badge. District Attorney Melissa Harper. I suggest you hear both sides before making any statements for the record. The officer's expressions changed immediately. Their posture straightened. Yes, ma'am, one said. He turned to Karen, frowning. Did you say you called this in? Karen hesitated. Well, yes, because she's a sitting DA. The officer cut in firmly. And unless you have a warrant or probable cause, you just interfered with an official. Karen's face went pale. I didn't know, she whispered. Melissa folded her arms. That's the problem. You don't ask. You accuse. You threaten. And now you're caught. The guards looked terrified. We were just following orders, one muttered. Yeah, she told us to stop anyone without her permission, the other added nervously. Karen spun on them. You work for the HOA. You're supposed to back me up. The taller officer stepped forward. Ma'am, that's enough. We'll need everyone's statements. He gestured to me and Melissa. You two, please stay put. As they pulled Karen aside, Melissa quietly showed me her phone. You should see this, she whispered. It was a string of HOA emails with Karen's name on every single one, targeting homeowners, restricting guests and payment records that didn't match any real expenses. I blinked. Wait, is that fraud? Melissa nodded softly. She's been misusing HOA funds for months. Just then, one of the officers returned. Ma'am, he said to Melissa, dispatch confirmed your ID. What would you like us to do next? Melissa gave a calm, confident smile. It's time the HOA board answered for a few things. She glanced at Karen, who was now shaking her head in panic as more neighbors filmed her meltdown. You can't do this. Karen shouted. This is my neighborhood. Melissa's voice stayed cool. Not anymore. Karen's world collapsed right there. Officers surrounded her while Melissa explained everything. The fake fines, the stolen funds, the harassment. The neighbors gasped as an officer read the evidence straight from her phone. Karen tried one last time. You can't arrest me. I was protecting this community. Melissa stepped closer, her tone cold but steady. You were protecting your control, not the community. Minutes later, Karen was in handcuffs, shouting that it was all a mistake. The guards slipped away quietly, knowing it was over. As the patrol car drove off, the whole street stood in silence. Melissa turned to me and smiled. Next time you invite me to dinner, maybe warn me about the HOA. I laughed, shaking my head. Next time I'll just move, she smiled. No need, they won't be back. I'm filing charges in the morning. And just like that, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA was gone. And for the first time in months, the neighborhood felt free again. Never mess with someone who truly knows the law. The end.